Welcome back to Freedom to Learn podcast. My name is Gurumurthy Yeleswarapu, founder and CEO of Siliconvalley4u. Today we have a very special guest, individual that I knew for 20 some years, the age of um, the individual, pretty much all his life. And his name is Rohan Menezes. And um, welcome, Rohan. And he's going to talk about his journey in the education in America and what he has been doing, what he's up to now, and what he's going to do. And hopefully that helps you guys who are is trying to pursue college degrees in America. So welcome, Rohan.
Yeah, thanks so much. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you tell the audience about yourself and yourself, where you grew up, and also explain your journey so far. How you ended up in UPenn and what you're doing there, and then what you are up to right now. Everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as you mentioned, my name is Rohan Menezes. I grew up in the Bay Area in California, which is of course where I met and got to know you. Growing up, yeah, I've lived in Santa Clara my entire life. I went to high school at Bellarmine College Prep in San Jose, which is where I first got interested and into programming and coding. Obviously, growing up in the Silicon Valley, there were a lot of programming courses on offer, even at the high school level. And I basically took every single one that my high school offered. Really enjoyed it all, and then kind of decided to pursue that into college. I went to college at the University of Pennsylvania, where I did a program called the Jerome Fisher Program in Management and Technology for my undergraduate. That was actually a dual degree that allowed me to simultaneously pursue undergraduate degrees in the engineering school, where I majored in computer science, and the business school, where I concentrated in management. I also stayed a little bit of extra time at UPenn to get my master's in computer science as well. All the while, I did internships in both software engineering and product management, but ultimately decided that I wanted to pursue product management for a full-time career. So I started out with my first job out of school being a product manager at Microsoft. There, I worked in the Microsoft advertising division, specifically focused on building products to help small and medium-sized businesses grow their business through advertising. And then after that, I shifted to a startup called Halliday that is involved in the Web3 blockchain space, where I served as the head of product. And recently, I'm just about to actually make a change to try out teaching. I'm basically going to teach a class at the University of Pennsylvania for this upcoming semester, which I'm really excited about.
Fantastic. So anybody see I yeah, as a being part of Siliconvalley4u, anybody that says, hey, I'm going to teach, that excites us. so um so tell me something, right? And so you know I asked this question to everybody, and we all know that, and I wanted to get your perspective. There is a gap between academics, whatever those are, and the real world. And then let's focus more on the business and tech for this conversation. And there are other disciplines that we are not too familiar with. We don't have to discuss those. So if you do you see that? I mean, from you spent probably very less time in the industry so far, and you completed your education pretty much. And I wanted to get your perspective, and so what's your take on that? And have you experienced that when you got out of your college, first time getting into the industry? Did you feel like, man, things are starting all over, or you didn't? Ignorance is bliss sometimes, right? I can speak for myself. I didn't know that I had an issue because so I don't know how the industry is supposed to work. So you just go there and looking around what to do and things like that. So tell me what your experience has been so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of from my perspective, sort of the biggest difference slash disconnect that I see there is that school really teaches you a lot about skills. It teaches you how to do things, builds up certain skills that are, of course, really valuable in professional life. Um, but the kind of big thing is it doesn't teach you sort of what kind of job you're most interested in or what kind of job would suit you best. Basically, you exit college having a bunch of skills that could be applied to a wide variety of jobs. And I think a thing that me and a lot of other students that were in my position, and a lot of my friends who are like similar age, struggled to figure out before or still struggling to figure out right now is what is that job that is both best suited to the skills that you possess, but also the passions and interests that you have as well. And I think that was certainly a significant challenge for me and definitely for a lot of my friends as well.
Oh, you hit right on. So that's we call it discovery process. With all due respect, colleges, our school education system doesn't give you the opportunity to discover yourself. So that's what I've been explaining earlier. We, as part of our process, we allow the student to find that by allowing the person to do different things. So in other words, I'll give you an example. If you're a computer science, I did computer science. If you're a computer science guy, the industry college system tells industry that this guy has to be a software developer or a software guy. If I want to be a product manager, no, because I didn't do MBA. And if I want to be some sales, forget about it, because I don't have that experience or I don't have formal education of what that. And then, but just because I did computer science doesn't mean that this is what I want to do. I don't know. You never gave me opportunity to test it out and see, okay, maybe if I knew after my first year, hey, I don't want to be a developer, then maybe I would have switched to something else. You didn't give me a chance. All you told me is get the GPA and get out. And so that's what I did. Now you're telling me go and work for those companies, figure it out. This is your life from here on. So that's what happened to me. And I think that's happening to you right now. And in many cases, everybody's. So what we call a discovery process, where if a young student gets an opportunity to figure it out, you're absolutely right. I mean, there are great jobs, but those jobs, do they fit for you? Is that what you want? They are great. Amazon is a great company, and a data science job in Amazon is a great job, I'm pretty sure. But if that's not you, then even if you get the job, it's not going to work out for you. And so that's important, very important. I would say void in the education system, but you put it very correctly though. So in other words, you can acquire tons of skills. I give this silly example. For instance, I know how to use Spanner, and then I ask somebody to, hey, can you help me with putting the pictures on the wall? And the guy says, I don't know how to use Hammer. Okay, so so the point is that you need to understand what needs to be done and work backwards rather than just accumulate a lot of things: math, physics, chemistry, history, yada yada, and then you hit the dead end and or end of the education system, and you start wondering, what do I do? And a lot of times people say, I'm going to take a year break. That's hilarious to me. So you had a break for almost 20 years. You need one more year break? What are you talking about? So anyway, coming back to, yeah, I think that related to what you just said, were you able to see in your college days what you were, for instance, you worked for a couple of companies, now you're going back to UPenn as a mentor. Is that what were you able to envision that in your college days? And if yes, how you were able to do it? If not, tell me why you were not able to see that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think that in my college days, I was able to envision the earlier jobs that I had, but not the current job that I have, I would
Correct.
say.
Yeah.
Basically for me, I think First of all, I just wanted to say, like, I love this whole idea of making this discovery phase explicit, because I think it's something that is super important and super critical for people to be thinking about while they're still in school. That's something that I definitely didn't do. And I would say that's why I couldn't necessarily envision why I am where I am right now. Basically, for me, I kind of tried out one thing, which, as I mentioned, was the programming and coding classes that I took in high school. I really liked that, so I sort of continued on that path in college. I continued to like that, and that very naturally led into software engineering and product management jobs, which is why I ended up doing software and product management internships, and then eventually got 2 jobs in product as my first 2 jobs out of school.
Yeah.
However, I think the key part was that I basically just started with something that I liked and sort of just continued on that path. But I didn't really ever explicitly consider that, oh, what if there's something out there that I haven't tried yet that I could potentially like even more? And I think because I never had that explicit thought process and never really went through kind of like that learning journey or that discovery journey for myself, that's what kind of led me to start in like a product job, do a couple of product jobs, and then realize, oh, hey, teaching is something that I've really enjoyed my entire life, doing at the high school level, doing at the college level. What if I would like that even more than the product management jobs that I'm doing right now?
Yeah.
And so, as you kind of said, now I kind of have to, now that I'm sort of full-time employee, have to figure that out by like doing an explicit job rather than doing it in sort of a lower cost way by maybe trying it out with like an internship when I was like in college, or trying it out with like a part-time job or something like that. Once you get to kind of like the point where you've graduated college, it's, I would say, much more commitment to try things out. But yet that's what me and I would say a lot of my friends have to do, just because we never really had that discovery phase
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
considered a lot when we were in college ourselves.
I like to add a couple of things. First of all, I want to correct. I know I have a little bit more wisdom and gray hair than you do. You don't have any gray hair. I have a lot. Um, First of all, it's not your fault. I want you to remember that it's not you. You don't have to be hard on yourself. Oh, I didn't know this. It's not you. With all due respect, it's the system. That's how the systems are defined. You are part of the system. You followed just like anybody else did, and you got out. And now the second part, is this is what I always say. This right now in my what I see is that it's trial and error. You tried this, let's see, it works. You try this, and then it works. I did that too. By the way, my trial and error was even horrendous, and they had to. I had to work for a company because I didn't have choice because, yeah, anyway. So at least you have a freedom to just stay and quit and all that. So long story short, this by now, if you look back right now, right? So you invested, are you what, 25, 24, 25,
24. Yeah.
24? So you invested, let's see, 20 years of your life into education, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did that too, don't worry. So 20 years of, 20 years you spent on something, let's call it education. Take out first 12 years up to middle school because you're very young, all that, so that's fine. Upper middle school, high school, and college, take those years, right? Those are about 10 years. You invested 10 years in something, and you should know everything you need to do right after those 10 years. Don't you think? If I go to Wall Street today, you're in fintech. If I go to Wall Street and say, or a bank comes to you and say, hey, 10 years, you put all your full-time money, your stress and your parents' stress, whole 9 years. What happens after that? I don't know. We'll see. Depending on how you come out, we'll see what happens. It depends on the economy or job market. You may or may not get a job. That's the world we are in. Even today, it's not about job. I know the word we use, job, it's job. See, that's the other thing. I've been told if I do this, I get a job. That's it. it's your ability to serve people is what you need to understand. Once you do that, job is just one function. You can do a lot of other things if you don't want to do job. Point I'm trying to make is that it's not your fault, and this trial and error should not, it should be zero. It should be like right after college, one should know what he or she wants to do. And if they end up being in wrong companies and all that, so it can happen, that's life, that's fine. But other than that, let's say, if you want to put, at least you should know, okay, I want to be in teaching, I want to be teaching this. I want to be teaching, let's say, fintech, whatever it is, and I want to start there. And in 3 years, I want to be here. In 5 years, I want to be here. I'm not saying that you have to know exactly. Nobody will know, but you have to have an idea. Okay, this is where I'm going. I want to go with, so that you enjoy when you get up. This is what you wanted to do. It. You're doing it. That's great. That's what everybody wants. Um, the problem starts when you have, I can speak for I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I was doing is get on the freeway and hate myself. Why am I going? I mean, you know how many people don't want to go to work here? So they just, I mean, nowadays you can work from home. There's some help, but otherwise, back in the day, get on the freeway and just hate yourself, and because you're going there, you're getting a paycheck. That's not good life, whether you make money or not. And if you're not making money, you hate your job, that's absolute worst. so so but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's not on you. I don't think you made any mistakes. It's just the way system was. You went through it, you got out, now you're figuring out. I appreciate that you're able to quickly pivot and figure out, okay, this is what I want to do and get in. And you know how there are people in 30s and 40s still trying to figure out, just
Yeah.
so you know. So so yeah, I think you so you want to, so you work for a large company for a brief period, and also you work for a startup. So you want to give any idea or some suggestion to the people that are coming in? What's your experience been, and what do you recommend to them?
Yeah, I think honestly, kind of the way I would put it is a startup is right for certain people and a big company is right for certain people, mostly depending on their personality,
Correct.
and what they're looking to get out of a job and what they're looking to get out of work. I think a big company, a lot of this isn't going to be like rocket science, but it's very stable, in terms of you get like a great stable paycheck and like equity that generally should only appreciate over time, um, albeit at like a slower rate than you might get for like a
Right.
startup. You of course get like nice working hours. You have tons of perks, if you work at some of the bigger companies, like free food or like a gym on campus or whatever it might be. And then also you're in, I would say, like a little bit of a cushy position with the work that you're doing as well. Your bosses know that like you are tough to replace, and whatnot. So generally, like you feel pretty empowered to ask for the kinds of work that you want, and your bosses and upper management will really take the time to, one, like mentor you, but also sort of give you the things that you ask for and the things that you want, and whatnot. So I would say it's generally good for, I would say, people coming out of school, because it's a nice sort of introduction to working for a company. Obviously, there's a lot of things involved in a job and a career that you don't necessarily get to experience, um, when you're in college. So I'd say it's like a good introduction to kind of like the workforce, because things are so defined, and certain for you, that things that are new to you are easy to absorb. And then I would say it's also good for people who generally aren't looking to do anything like, I would say, crazy, in terms of like build $1 billion business from scratch, but just sort of want to do interesting work, on a day-to-day basis and not have it sort of interfere too much with their like personal life. Basically get that good mix of like intellectually engaging, interesting work, and at the same time, like a vibrant social life or family life, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Um, I think on the other hand, a startup is obviously much more like the wild, wild west, where you may have like a title or you may have a role, but that will describe maybe 50% of what you'll be doing.
Yeah.
There's just so much stuff that will like come up randomly that you'll kind of need to take care of. There's so many different hats that you're going to need to wear. Um, it's also going to be very turbulent. There's going to be a lot that's going to happen to your startup, both like good and bad. You need to be very willing and able to roll with the punches. And then I think the other thing is you definitely don't have as anywhere near as much of a work-life balance. You really need to be willing to sacrifice quite a bit in your personal life, social life, or family life, whatever it might be, in order to truly give your full effort to the startup,
Yeah.
because it will demand quite a bit from you. But at the same time, you have the opportunity to be part of a small team, have a really significant voice in what that team is building, how that team is building it, the direction, and then ultimate success of the company as well. So I would say a startup is really good for people who have an idea that they're extremely passionate about, and really kind of want to center or orient their life around the pursuit of that idea, or the, I would say, like pursuit of some sort of goal in that related to that idea or industry or whatever it might be. So I would say like what it kind of comes down to is just being honest with yourself in terms of which
Yeah.
of those sounds more appealing to you. Do you have that burning passion for something that you really want to pursue in a role that I would argue is like much more than full time? Or are you just sort of kind of like interested in tech in general, interested in area in general, and just sort of want to have intellectually engaging, very interesting work, while at the same time still preserving all the other parts of life as well?
Yeah. No, I think you put very succinctly. I think you had a great observation between these two. Being you know, still an entry level guy, more or less. I think that's true from one side, but the way I like to look at it is, for you guys right now is, no, you're absolutely right that there are big companies, you have better life, quality life is better, and you have better social life, whole 9 years. This is crazy. This is like always chaos, right? You deal with something that comes from the left field, right? So, but no, in either of them, I think the question you should ask yourself is, am I learning?
Yes.
And in other words, does this take me to solve the problem? That is the challenge with the large companies, because I work for them. And when in the large, big companies, the problem is the visibility into the actual product, and in some cases it's just what you do, can be very minimal unless you develop that ability to see through things. You will never be able to, I shouldn't say you'll never be able to, your growth can be kind of limited by all those obstacles, because there is so many groups, so there are a lot of cross functions. They do that, they do this, and you do this, and you do that, and you end up doing very small piece. um, and many times 8 hours, 10 hours go into just dealing with that. And then there are other people, they spend 8, 10 hours, but if you take the exact same task in a startup, if you spend 8, 10 hours, you are able to learn a lot more, because you are the in charge for the overall picture from whatever the role you are playing, and you have to deal with all that. But it comes to the pressure. Bottom line is that between now and 30, as I said before, whatever the role you are in, and if you're able to grow, and I think you're going to do well no matter what, whether it's a large company or a small company. um
Yeah,
but that,
100% agree with that. I think no matter what, whether you feel that the large company is a better fit or small company is a better fit, 100% agree that like learning should be that primary objective.
yeah,
And yeah, you should definitely like have a role where you are being challenged, and growing every day.
yeah,
It's just more kind of like the type of challenge you want. That's how you kind of like pick small company or big company.
yeah. No, well, so one of the guys, he joined this company for 6 months, and they gave him iPad, and he wanted to return that. They said keep it. The point is that they are not interested in any work, whatever the work he did. They were not interested. They didn't. The work he developed some mobile app. It was on the iPad. They didn't even take the device back. So it's not a good feeling when you're leaving
Yeah.
there. But jokes aside, my point is that you know when you choose these things, as long as you have final goal in picture, and then if you can work backwards, whatever I just said is not easy, by the way.
Yeah.
And if you strive for that, if you can figure that out, I think whoever figures it out, I think they'll have, they're a lot more driven, a lot more, I mean, I think they'll have better understanding of what's happening around them. So in other words, let's say you're going to UPenn, my 2 cents is to have a sense of, okay, how this is going to translate next year, 2 year, 3 years, something like that, some rough idea. If you have better idea, that's great. If you can't, at least rough idea. And then work backwards and say, whatever I'm doing today, is it going to translate to that? If not, then maybe you should talk to your boss there and, hey, you know what, this is what I want to do, and now I'm going this way. What do you want me to do? And then hopefully they'll put you on the right direction, and then you can go there. That's my take on that. Not having that, not the ability of seeing that is a problem for many of us. At least I didn't know, and I know a lot of people who don't know that. And to be honest, they don't even know that they have to see that. That is the second layer of problem. Yeah. So the other thing is, so going from there, right? I know you told me in this podcast multiple times that you learned coding and you are interested in coding, and somehow that led to your college education and everything until this point. So we are trying to preach to all the young youth is, no matter what you do, whatever you want to be in future, whatever the discipline you choose, have technology. Technology is no longer a subject. It's not no longer a destination. This is just a tool for you to achieve what you want. Let's say you're going to teach, right? And even there, I know you're in tech, but I don't have to tell you. The point I'm trying to make is that you constantly use this to bring, help your profession and, improve by doing certain things, like writing blogs and putting out there in, understanding social media, putting out there on the social um, channels and things like that. So we make a lot of students write blogs. You saw them, right? I showed on the next clap, and we put them on the social channels so that when they are ready for the prime time, their profiles are already built. So things of that nature, you need to. There's so much out there, and you can't do everything, but you have to figure out the 4 or 5 things that make sense to what you want to do and where your profession or the type of work you want to do. If you start using it, it has to be an everyday thing. It's not like I did computer science, 6 months, you do this and then write the exam, get out. That's no longer the case with tech. See, you and I are talking like this. I'll tell you right now, in 2 years' time, God knows how this Zoom link is going to be. Probably I'll be sitting in your living room, or you'll be sitting in my living room without sitting here. You know what I mean? Things are moving so fast, and tech is going to be part of your life, whether you like it or not. And so my take is that everybody should learn tech, whether they do coding or not. They must learn tech, whether it's AI, blockchain, know the domains and our ability to learn. You should know how to learn on the fly. If you don't know something, you read and you have to make sense of that. And our generation was, if you don't know computer science, no big deal. There are a lot of people don't know how to use computer. They're doing it very well. And that is no longer going to be the case, right, going forward. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think like my opinion on this is formed honestly more by my peers and my friends than myself. I always like to look at sort of how things are impacting my friends rather than just how they're impacting me, because obviously that's a much bigger sample size. That's actually why I 100% agree with you that a lot of what's going on right now, where people are coming out of college thinking they want to do something but then not really knowing, and then having to try out a bunch of things, that being a result of the system, 100% agree, because I see that going on with not just myself, as I mentioned, but also so many of my friends.
Yeah.
In this respect, I think 100% agree with what you said as well. I think that tech and the knowledge of technology is becoming more table stakes than it ever was before. I have friends that work in all kinds of industries, such as banking, such as politics, such as consulting. And no matter where you go, having that technical knowledge is absolutely a huge plus for them, because it gives them something that not a lot of other people in their field have, and just inherently makes them more valuable. For example, one of my friends, she works for a political consulting company, and basically, she was the only one who knew how to use a certain kind of software that they use to actually like set up their surveys and to distribute their surveys. And that made her a sort of extremely valued member of the team, because anytime someone wanted to set up a survey and like run a survey, they would be able to like go to her. She would be able to do it like the quickest. And it meant that like a lot of people throughout the office owed her one, or wanted to include her on her projects. And she really kind of had like the pick of whatever she wanted to do, and wherever she wanted to go. So that's honestly just like one small example. I could give a dozen more, just like that. But I think the biggest thing is that like no matter what industry you're in, technology has become so prevalent that having knowledge of how to use that technology, or even better, knowing how to code and how to program, definitely gives you a leg up and a skill set that's honestly a competitive advantage in your job.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, I know we don't have a lot of time left. This topic is so wide and I'm very passionate. I can go on for 2 hours easily. Um, so I'm gonna, you know, close this with the last question. So what is a piece of technology that you think, whether it's for games or something fantasy that you have, that's you don't have it today. So let's say if I had this, for instance, if you ask me if I can go to India in an hour time, that's what I want. So is that something like that? Do you have any type of um,
Yeah, that's
piece
a
of
great
tech
question.
that you look for?
Yeah, I think kind of what I'm looking forward to, is actually the application of technology to the medical and medical devices space.
Yeah.
I think this is one area where, in talking to some of my friends who are on the med school path right now, or talking to some of my friends' parents who are doctors, this is one area where I think technology has not yet had the massive impact that it potentially could, due to a lot of like regulatory and cost-based reasons. But one thing that I recently heard of that I thought was extremely cool was a dynamic technology controlled knee brace. So basically the idea is that like the typical knee brace that you wear is literally just like stretchy rubber, of some sort, or like neoprene, or like whatever. It provides support, which is helpful. But basically this dynamic brace essentially provides variable amounts of support
Oh, really?
depending on the activity that you're doing, and depending on how much strain is being put to your knee. So when you're just like walking down the street, it can basically provide no support. It feels like the brace isn't even there, and you can basically just like not be hindered by it at all. But if you're playing sports and you're cutting very hard, and your ACL or meniscus or whatever is like straining, the brace can then dynamically adjust to provide more support in like those scenarios, when you need it to prevent you from going overboard, and potentially like injuring yourself, or something like that. So I think things like that, are things that I'm very much looking forward
Yeah.
to. For example, I have like a bad shoulder, and I think like a lot of the times I've gotten in trouble because I did something with my shoulder when I wasn't wearing my brace, and then like slightly re-injured it, or I was wearing my brace but like I wasn't doing anything, and it just started like hurting due to like the amount of time the brace had been on, or like the amount of like tension that was being provided. So I think like certainly like a similar brace becoming available for the shoulder and becoming more like cost effective that it could really go to the wide stream market is something that I'd be super interested in and would really look forward to.
Yeah, that's. I think that's a noble cause too, not just a fun type tech. So hey, with that, I thank you very much. So, we do typically series of podcasts, three. So maybe next time we'll take a certain topic and then we drill down a little bit more and talk about it. And I wish you all the best with your new venture, a new job, and I'm pretty sure you have a lot of familiarity there, and it will be much easier for you to get going. And as I said before, we'll be happy to work with you if you're interested. So let me know once you go there, settle down and everything. And yeah, thanks for taking time. And, so, and I look forward to talking to you very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a super fun conversation. Appreciate the invite.